This podcast is brought to you by RYYZN Make Life Work Out, a health and self-development platform dedicated to helping busy, everyday Kiwis manage their physical health and upskill their mental well-being.
Through sharing relatable and practical content from health practitioners, as well as showcasing interesting stories from interesting people.
For more shows, content, events, and coaching, head to our website, www.ryz-workout.com. How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the High Frequency Club podcast. My name is Marwan Salario.
And I'm Shanae Behrman. We're here talking all things self-development, growth and mindset.
In this week's episode, we chat to BFT owner and community leader Benjamin Channing. He speaks to us about how losing his father, his mother working 3 jobs, and his value for community has helped shape the decisions he has made today.
And Ben is one of those very rare trainers who not only delivers a great group fitness workout, but a great group fitness experience. And this is all thanks to his performing arts background.
Ben is very charismatic, and his ability to storytell makes this episode very valuable and engaging to listen to.
Yes, so be sure to let us know once you've had a listen, and make sure you follow and subscribe at the High Frequency Club on all your favourite audio platforms, as well as Instagram and YouTube.
Enjoy the show. So, performing arts background, bro, obviously, and you're an owner of BFT. Why don't you take us back to your upbringing? You know, let us know about the influences that you had in your upbringing to help us understand the Benjamin Channing that sits with us today.
So like my biggest influence in life is probably my mother, like massive. So so dad passed when I was 9, and mum had to take on the role of dad and mum, but she was like, bro, this is tough, because she was doing, like, when I say the biggest influence, I'm like, she was the hardest worker in every single room that she walked into. She was the nicest person, most giving person, and she still is, kind of thing. And so watching her as I grew up, I was always like, man, am I ever doing enough? Because like she's doing so much. Like she was working as soon as dad passed. She was like, okay, cool, I need to pay the mortgage. I need to provide food. And I'm very, very lucky in the fact that she didn't ever let us go hungry. There was always food on the table, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and it was always like she was busting ass. Like she had 3 jobs. She'd come home from night shift as a nurse, like in ED, and then she'd go to her day job in the community as a nurse, and then she'd go do an afternoon shift as a nurse, and then she'd go back to her night shift. Jesus. Like she had 2 hours sleep between each job, kind of thing. And in that time, she was trying to give us a little bit of love, like my brother and I was like, at the time, I was like, man, like all I want is my mum. Like we've just lost dad. Like all I want is that connection with mum. But like now looking back at it, I was like, I see what you're doing. And then it got to a point where I think she realized that like I'm not actually being a mum. I'm trying to give myself so much, like give my kids so much that I'm not actually giving them anything at all. Like I'm just letting them live, bro. Like she was like, it was quite funny because she was brought up real Samoan. And then she brought her parents over to look after my brother and I, and we were naughty. 2 cheeky Samoan boys. It is what it is, bro. Like we were naughty, but she would come home every single day, and like my grandparents would tell her everything that we've done wrong throughout the day. Like it was, Lily did this, Ben did this, and so we just expect to get a hiding. But then talking to my mum about it, like a couple of years ago, I was like, bro, like sometimes we did nothing. Like literally, sometimes it was like, bro, they slept till 10 o'clock on the school holidays, and we'd get a hiding for it. Like she had this bamboo stick. She was like, go get the stick, and she'd give us a hiding for it. And like it was before it became illegal to it became illegal to kids just say that. And so she just whack us with it, and I was like, bro, like mum, like what was that about? And she was just like, it's the way that we showed love in Samoa, like, and it's different because like you look at it and you're like, that's not love, but it was, I want you to just be the best person that you can, and this is how I learned it. And so let me, and I was just like, okay, cool. Like, I never hold anything against her because she did her best. She had 2 young kids that were like obviously grieving, trying to bust ass to pay off this house that we were left with, and it was just everything was. She was just throwing a massive curveball when Dad passed, and so I think that's one of the most pivotal moments. That's like brought up my upbringing, because then I could see where what my mum does and what she does for her community and what she does for her, like for every day. Like how I said, she's the nicest person and like most giving person. I think we never grew up without someone who wasn't like actually part of our family living with us. So like my cousins and stuff like that would be in Samoa, and they'd be like, oh, we kind of want them to go to New Zealand to go to school. Mum would be like, bring them. So we'll have like a house with like 3 bedrooms, but there'd be like 7 or 8 of us living in that house because those people didn't have like anywhere to go apart from Samoa. So they were like, send them to New Zealand. They'll go to school, they'll get thing. And Ben's mum, like Misepo will look after them. And so they'd just come live at our house. Like, we just had to share the food. We just had, like, it was always just big community, big tables and everything like that. So then moving forward through that, I think went to Dilworth, so I went to a boarding school.
Is that private?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
But everyone's on scholarship.
Right.
So I think the best thing about Dilworth was, like, their message is, we want to give boys who couldn't really afford to go to like a private school or like a good education, the best education, and make good and useful citizens. So everyone there like either came from broken homes, single parent like homes, or just like one parent was like sick or something like that, or they just like were socioeconomic people. So we're all coming from the same background and all boys kind of thing. So that kind of got me into sport. I think Mum never really let me ever play rugby because she was like, bro, you'll get injured. And she was right. Broken jaws, broken collarbones, broken hands. And so I was like, but I was at boarding school, so I was there 6 days a week out of 7 kind of thing. I'd go home after sport on Saturday, and then I'd come back to school for chapel on Sunday night.
This is still in Auckland though, eh?
Yeah.
So
just
everyone
in
lives,
Newmarket.
lives. Ah.
Yeah, so like you'd get dropped off at like,
True.
I think it was like 4:35, 5 p.m. And then you'd have to go to chapel at 6 on Sunday night.
Yeah.
And then you'd go to chapel, and then you'd go back to your house, sleep there. They provided, like, because everyone's on scholarship. So undies, socks, food,
every single student.
Everything.
True. I didn't know that about that.
It was crazy, man. Like again, back at the time, I wasn't grateful enough, I don't think. Like, I look back at it and I was like, bro, you're just a brat. Like, you're mucking around, not going to school. You had all these opportunities that you just didn't take, bro. But like, I guess like hindsight's a bitch, eh?
What do we know as kids, right, bro? Like, we're just, for me, I was just at school to have fun.
Bro,
I didn't take the opportunities that were in front of me apart from having fun.
Yeah.
And
I think that like created my love for like sport, but also created my love for like performing arts. So my mum always tells everyone, when Ben was born, when he came out, like my dad stood there and like he held me and he goes, I want this boy to be a singer. She tells everyone that, and I'm like, bro, Mum, I can't even sing, man. Like, I can hold a tune, but I'm not a great singer. Like, and so like went to school, and they do kind of force it. They force everyone to have like a summer sport and a winter sport. So you have to pick one of the sports. And like, but some of the sports were like chess and stuff like that. So like, it wasn't as like, everyone has to play rugby because it's a New Zealand school. It was like, hey, we're just trying to broaden your horizons. Like, you can go out and like, who knows, you might find some sport that you're like actually really bloody good at. You just haven't given a shot yet. Like there was badminton, and they'd pay for everything. So you didn't have to, it wasn't like, there was no limits to what you could do at that school. Like you could go do it, like if you wanted to learn how to play guitar, you just had to apply. And if they thought your like grades and stuff were good enough, they'd get you into guitar lessons, get you a guitar and stuff like that, so you could practice at home and stuff like that. So cool. So many opportunities. And so I was like, oh, I want to learn how to play guitars or drums so that I could be that cool kid that like sits there and is like jamming. My fingers just didn't want to do it. Like I could do it like an island strum and like sing along kind of thing at a party, but I couldn't do that. Ting, ting, ting. And so I was like, I'll go do singing. Thinking it was like R&B, like what Usher, and I was like, yeah, bro, I'll be a little Chris Brown. It was classical singing.
Crack up.
And so like walked in, and my teacher at the time, Claire Cordhouse, amazing teacher, doing great things again for the community, was like, oh, come in, like learn how to sing properly and like use your body as your instrument. And I was just like, bro, like singing in German, Italian, like all these different arias and stuff like that. And I was like, bro, I just did this to get out of math class, man.
That's not what I'm here for.
But then now looking back, like one of my best mates is over in like London at the Royal Opera House singing on the biggest stage, because like he goes, bro, where do you go? Like every double math period, like after morning tea and like lunch, double math kind of thing. He was like, bro, you just boost. And I was like, oh, go to singing lessons so I don't have to come here for like half an hour because I hate math. And he was like, what the hell? So he did it. And then now he's like up there, like, bro, he's like massive in the opera world. Like, it's so awesome to see. And I'm like cheering him all the way kind of thing. But yeah, I was just like, oh, so that brought out my love for performing and like pushed it even further. I started doing more dance and more like, and then found musical theatre, and I was like, oh bro, like I love drama, I love dance, I love singing. All three, bro, like zang. And then started doing that
At Dilworth still, right?
Dilworth,
Musical theatre, got it.
Every year I was doing like all the musicals and stuff like that. Like being this little kid just dancing on stage and then coming off again, like I said, like getting that high and then being like, ooh, now what do I do? Oh cool, but like it was okay because I had sport. Because then I'd go leave that, and then I had choir when we were performing at the Big Sing and stuff like that. So I always had something going on, and then came out of high school and went and did that, and then we did this big production, and then that high just got me there, and I was like performing. I was like the lead in West Side Story down in Manukau and stuff like that. And so I'm standing there as Tony singing and walk off, and I was like, oh bro, this is amazing, this is so cool. Get to do a little bit of dance, get to do a little bit of acting, hook up with a chick. So it was all, and then this massive lull, because I was like, bro, what do I do now? I'm like, I don't have sport, I don't have everything that I had before, or what do I do? And it was like, thanks to my brother, like he got me into like lifting weights. Like we were in the garage and like we didn't have a bench, we didn't have it, like we had a little couch like this kind of thing, and for our bench press we'd literally like head would be here and like body would be here, and like him and his mate would like lift it on top, and so I'd be there and benching with this barbell, and then if I get stuck they'd just be like, just go, and like it was like the most intense workouts that we had. But like we didn't know, man.
That's the failure every rep I did.
And then we had, like for our squat rack we had 2 chairs like stood up like on each side kind of thing, and they'd put the rack on top or the barbell on top so you could get under, or like if we couldn't grab the 2 chairs because mum was like, no. They just stand there like this holding it, and we'd be like, oh yeah, see, I got it, I think. And it was like, bro, whatever we knew, like bodybuilding.com kind of stuff.
That's the right passage again, bro.
And so like I think that, and then that was like, oh bro, like I love this stuff, like and it was just guy time, like we're just sitting here chatting. The first real time that I've actually just sat down with my brother, who was like 3 years older than me, and just chatted away, like because it was just the 2 of us for an hour, and he was always like, nah, we need a rest so we're going to lift heavy again and stuff like that. So it was kind of cool because it gave us that time to bond. So that again, like another pivotal kind of moment that kind of got me into PTing kind of thing. And then when I kind of left the performing, and I was like, oh man, I just don't know if this is what I want to do. I was building at the time with my brother, and I was like, this is not what I want to do. Like,
the building or the performing
the
arts?
building.
Yeah.
Like this is like, bro, this is money. Like, you're getting good money as a builder. Like, you get beers on a Friday, so you get to chill. You get time to work out. It was great, but like, I was just never fulfilled. And I was like, well, I like working out. Maybe I go do a course, see how it goes. Did the course, loved it, and started working at a gym, like a commercial like gym down in Newmarket. And it was like a gym that like they didn't like, you walk in and they go, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. They just break you down and they go, sweet, like, let's teach you everything from the beginning. Sweet. So like, what does your rectus abdominis do? I was like, this one. and they were like, I was like, crunches. And they're like, yeah, what else? And they go, oh, I don't know, more like. And so they break it right down and they go, sweet, it does flexion of your trunk, it does like support of your trunk, blah, 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 all this kind of stuff. And I was like, holy, I don't know what I'm talking about. So I bought in massively, and then like learned pretty much how to break down every single movement. And then you're starting to teach that kind of stuff to like the younger boys that walk in, and or your younger girls as well. And you're like, sweet, this is your squat, but like, what are your squat mechanics? What are the common errors that you get, and like, how do you fix that? But like, how do you explain to someone why? Like, it's easy to go, oh sweet, like, chuck your knees out, because then you'll get way more glute activation. But why does it do that? Oh, because of the external rotation of the hip and blah blah blah. So it was so cool to see, but it was not a toxic environment. I just think I took like, I was part of that toxic place. Like, I was there and I was like, you're working 60-70 hours a week, so you don't get time to hang out with your friends, and everyone's drinking on the weekend. So I'm like, oh, yo, that's us.
Yeah.
And so you make all this money and then you go spend it all on the weekend, and then you come back and you make all this money and then you spend it all on the weekend. Never spending time with my girlfriend, who's now my wife. And then I think I was just like, again, riding, like searching for that high, like drugs, alcohol, all that kind of stuff. And then there was like a kind of like a breaking point, where so the biggest person in my life like ended up turning around and saying like, oh, I tried to kill myself. And I was like, oh fuck. And then they were like, I just can't handle it. And I go, well, you're the strongest, hardest working, like, or you're like the biggest person in my life. Like, I look up to you for everything. And if you can't handle life, what does that mean for me? Like, bro, like, am I going to get to a point where like, am I handling life right now? So like, I was on this like big wavelength, and I was like, bro, like, I can't handle life if you can't handle life, because you've handled life for the last 25 years of my life, like, and I've watched you be the biggest person, like the biggest personality, here for everyone, here for me, kind of thing. And then I was like, bro, like, so what do I do? And then I just went like straight into a tunnel, and just everything crashed. I left the job. I didn't know what I was doing. I was still drinking every weekend, still drugs and all that kind of stuff. And like, I was just like, nah, bro, I hate my life and all this kind of stuff, because like, I can't handle it.
So just take me back a little bit. So you had someone who you really care for, someone that's close to you, told themselves that they tried to commit suicide, and then that made you reflect, oh shit, this is someone that I look up to, and if they can't handle it, it made you reflect on where you were at in your life.
And like, I wasn't, and then I'd look back and I was like, I'm not being a good boyfriend at the time. I'm not being a good PT at the time, because I wasn't caring about my clients, like, because I was like, bro, like, you're just here to pay me so that I can go out on the weekend. I wasn't really being a good friend at the time either, like, to anyone in particular. Like, I was just there and hoping that they'd be free on the weekend so that they can come have like a drink with me and stuff like that. So I was just like never really like looking after anyone and I was barely looking after myself. I was just going through the motions, and so I just had to like kind of pull myself out. But I just kept going and kept going and kept going, and it wasn't until I was down, like I tell this story a lot to a lot of people. It was like when I was down in at Homegrown with like really close friends, and one of my like close friends at the time, but a person that I'd kind of distanced myself from because I was so focused on all that other shit. He hit me up and was like, bro, like we're sitting there like tipsy and just sitting there like enjoying the music, and he goes, "You okay, bro?" And I said, yeah, I'm sweet. And he's like, yeah, like I know, like you're sweet, but are you actually okay? Like how's life? And I was like, oh bro, I'm good. Trying to blow it off, and then he goes, nah, like I know you're not okay because you're not the person that you used to be. Just letting you know, like I'll be always there for you, and when you're ready, like just hit me up and we'll go for a beer. And so I got I think the next day, the friend that I came down with, because we drove, stupidly drove, but we were driving back, and I was like, oh bro, I'll take first shift. He slept the whole way.
The only shift.
Yeah. But this was a different friend. And so like, I was like, bro, I'll take first shift. Like, you just crash out, because I know he was like drunk as, because that kind of sobered me up.
Yeah.
Like, I just sat there the whole night being like, man, what am I doing? Drive back, and as we're driving, I was just like in my head being like, bro, like, what are you doing? Like, if someone could sit there who's like not really a close friend at the time, but like close, and like right now he's like one of my best mates. But like he can sit there and say to you, I can see through the bullshit. You're not as good an actor as you think you are, man. Like you wanted to be on Broadway? You ain't that good, bro. So I was like, oh man, like I need to get my life sorted. Found a job, and like I had to go back to being a tradie.
You quit PT then?
Quit PTing.
Yeah.
Like stopped the dancing. I was like, nah, I can't handle that stuff either, because of just like this.
The highs and lows of it. Yeah.
It's like causing me like little bit bouts of anxiety that I didn't really understand was anxiety at the time. Like I'd be sitting in a situation like this, like picking up my hands, like just trying to be like, hey, like you need to just be aware of what's happening around you, like biting my fingers, and like I was just like, oh bro, like, and it was literally because my body was just like so tense and not like releasing anything. Found like a therapist, started seeing a therapist, and just started talking about stuff. And then at the time, like when I quit the PTing, I'd also broken up with my girlfriend at the time. And I was like, bro, I can't handle, like, I'm not being here for you. So like, I just got to leave it. I got to start working on myself. And I was like, bro, I'm working on myself by myself. Like, independent man, bro. And then started talking to her, and I was just open about it. And I was like, I'm not in a good place. Like, I tried to take my own life. I tried to do this. I'm like drinking every weekend, doing drugs. Like, I can't handle this. And then she was just like, bro, like, then why didn't you just talk to me at the time? And I was like, I just can't. Like, it's hard. And so we ended up reconnecting, and thankfully she's like stuck with me. And yeah, now she's my wife, which I'm very thankful for as well. And then yeah, like again, so many like twists and turns to who I am today, but like grateful to be here, and yeah, like grateful to be able to spread that story, and like Walk a Mile with me like really made a difference for me as well, because it's like seeing everyone there grinding it out for one particular like person in their head, or particular people in their head, or just for themselves. Was really cool to see. And it's just, I think I'm happy with where I'm at right now, and grateful for everything that's happened. because that wouldn't make me who I am today without all those little things.
Of course.
That at the time, then I was like, nah, it's small.
Yeah. How did you come to owning a BFT now? So you were a PT, you left, became a tradie again.
Yeah.
Sorted the stuff out in your head.
Yep.
Now obviously you're back in the industry.
Yep.
You have one of the top BFT gyms here in New Zealand. How did you get there?
So sorted my stuff out of my head, left that. I was still working as a tradie at the time, and like around a really kind of a good father figure role kind of thing with my father-in-law. But then also like my boss at the time was just like a really like understanding person. Like he had the same kind of background as me. Like we both had the like performing arts background, but now we're as tradies kind of thing. And so we'd have like little jokes and stuff, but also he was like someone that was providing for his family. And I looked up to that and I was like, bro, like you're sitting there and you've got this business because you want to have your son and your daughter and now your other son like really kind of have a nice life. I was like, that's cool. Then I look at like my father-in-law who like had 2 businesses, and his thing was like always, the grass might be greener on the other side, but like you don't know what you're leaving behind if you do decide to go and water that grass. And so I was like, oh man, like it's tough. And I could see like all the struggles that he was going through from the outside, but I was like, could see how well his kids were brought up as well. And I was like, that's what I want for when I have children. And so fitness was like, again, I'd always gone back. Like I started coaching like postpartum people, or like women, to like build confidence to getting back into the gym. Like just different types of people, and then started working at F45 up in Whangaparoa, where we were staying at the time. And I was like, oh man, I just miss this group fitness. So I was like, oh man, I just love this because you meet so many different types of people, different walks of life, and like it's just so cool and interesting. It was never like an dream to have like an F45, but I was like, oh man, like maybe this is what I should just do. Then I found BFT, like just through like Facebook, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll go give that a whirl. And before I look into it deeper, went down to One Tree Hill, the only one that was like actually open in Auckland at the time. Did a workout, and I was like, man, that I walked out feeling awesome. And I was like, if I can make people feel like that every day, that's what I want to do. So went back to my father-in-law, and I was like, hey, like this is I've talked to the guy that sells him, this is the P&L, this is like what we're doing, or this is what they're doing, this is how they're bringing it up. What do you think? And he was like, let's do it. And I was like, oh, I didn't mean like, I didn't mean like, let's do it together. Like, I was like, I've just come to you. And he's like, nah, like, where else are you gonna get the money from? And I was like, oh, I didn't even think that far. You like this? You need money? So I was like, oh, yo, like, and he was like, nah, like, let's jump on a call with these guys and I'll ask him some like proper questions. So he's there sitting like asking big business questions, and I'm like, I don't understand any of these questions. Like, am I the right person to do this? And he was just like, nah, man, like, I believe in you, because I used to personal train him as well, just at his home gym. And he's like, man, like, you've got the personality, you've got the rapport building, you've got the sense of community that people need. Like, and he sat there and he was like, I hate group fitness. You'll never see me inside a group fitness gym. But if you're running one, I'd come. And so I was like, okay, like, oh man, that's a lot of trust. And like, wife was like, are you sure? Like, this is a lot of money to be taken from my dad. And I was like, I know, man. Every day I ask myself, like, was that the right decision? To be like, hey man, like, chuck me a few $100,000 and let me do this. Like, risk it. And
but he invested in the person.
And that's the thing, man. Like, and like, I'm again so grateful. Like, but it's so cool to see like what we've done together, because again, like, there are those highs and lows, like just like anything. But I think there's like kind of like a happy medium, and those highs and lows aren't as big as what they used to be, because there's something that I can control, kind of thing. And it's like if someone walks out of that and says like, oh, I'm just not happy with the gym, and I can actually go, hey, like, what weren't you happy with? And if they aren't honest, they aren't honest. But like if they are honest, like it'd be so cool to see like, oh cool, that's something that I can change. Let me change it.
Yeah.
Or, oh hey, well, if you didn't like me as a bit, like how much energy I have on the gym floor. Sorry, bro, that ain't gonna change. It's not gonna be for you, man. Yeah.
You want it to change.
Yeah. You're either gonna have to enjoy it or go find another gym there. Like,
fair enough, because that's authentically you.
Yeah.
And you ain't changing for no one.
Yeah,
Right?
nah, man.
Yeah,
So
fair.
I think that was cool, eh? And
It just goes to show also the power of role models.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
of opening yourself up, opening you up to a world that you wouldn't have necessarily been open to, right?
Nah, man,
Meeting your boss, really connecting with your father-in-law, opening you up to the business side of things. Yeah, that's awesome. I think that's so important. If you want to open yourself up to new knowledge, you have to go into different environments.
yeah, man.
Yeah.
That's sick. Yeah. So yeah.
I
That's
feel,
what
and I
brought us
feel,
to-
I was going to say, I feel based on everything we've touched on so far, that sort of sums up why I think your BFT is one of the most successful. Whenever I've gone past it, it's
the heart.
pumping,
There's
and
something
it is.
about
It's
the
like,
heart
yeah.
of it. And
I was
I've
saying
only
you're
been
about
there
the
for the
people.
short runs.
Yeah.
You know, and you're like, there's something different about this gym. And I haven't even done a class.
Yeah.
But it's the heart of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
there's
and I think, and it's like shows with like all our trainers as well. They come from their own lives, like they have their own stories as well. That and I think they put in as much heart as like I do, which is awesome to see, because it'd be so easy for them just to turn up, take their money, turn up and say, oh hey, how are you, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But they take whatever's said, whatever I say, and they run with it, and they're going, and like they're like, again, I facilitate the place for them to create a community, but like we all create that community together as people, rather than just like a lot of people say, oh bro, the community you've created. I'm always like, nah bro, the community we've created. Like it's different, man. Yeah.
Why'd you choose BFT? Why not like an F45 or all the other franchises? Why BFT? What makes BFT so special?
There's a lot of like research into like the programming that went with it. Like as much as F45 do what they do, they do what they do very well. It was just never progressed. It was never taken any further. It was always like, okay, cool. We're here, we run the market, because that was the only kind of group fitness gym around, kind of thing. And they never just went, okay, sweet, but we've got to get better every step of the way.
Yeah.
It was just like, yeah, here's your programming, let's just chuck in whatever. And I never really believed in the programming. I'd stand at the front of the class and go, hey guys, we need to slow all our strength movements down, because like you just seeing people like just
People
chucking
sending it
around.
out. Yeah.
And I was like, I get it, because you want to get sweaty, but like that's not going to help you in the future. And then went to a few BFT classes, but it was like, that's how I would train. That's what I believe in, kind of thing, in terms of training. Like these rest, like slow days, lot of fast days, heavy days, light days.
Yeah.
It just had everything that I was like, cool. But then on top of that, it had the why. Like they literally send out like after a week, they send out like 8 weeks of programming, and then they go, sweet, but this is why we run every single class. Cool. Monday is because on Wednesday we're doing like lower body, but we need to like really focus on this and this and this and this.
Yeah.
That will help at the end of the 8 weeks by like slowing down the tempo today is going to help in the 8 weeks, because you'll learn where you're struggling with your form, kind of thing, rather than just going, okay, sweet, we're just going to do military presses for 8 weeks. And all you're going to do every week is just military press. And it's just 5 reps, try and go heavier each week. They go, nah, slow it down some tempo, break it out, like do some pulse presses to strengthen the bottom end. So just like the programming, the love that the programmers actually have for their programming, that really like got me, and I was like, sweet, this is something I can sell, because I believe in the product.
Yeah, from an outsider looking in, I've always seen BFT as that middle ground between group fitness and CrossFit.
Yeah.
If that makes sense?
Yeah.
Like, I think sometimes there is this perspective with CrossFit that it's like hardcore, and quite intimidating.
Yeah.
And then there's like, for example, the F45s where there isn't much progress at all. If anything, it's just throw these movements in, get you sweaty, and then you're out.
Yeah.
You know, where BFT is that middle ground where it does provide world-class programming. There's reasoning behind it.
Yeah.
But you're also still doing the same lifts as the CrossFitters, but it's not as intense feeling.
It's more welcoming, eh?
Yeah.
And like, again, like I'll never bag on another gym or like group fitness studio, because I'm always like, you guys are doing something right because you got people moving.
That's the main thing, right? Yeah.
And like, as long as you can keep people moving,
Agree.
do what you do and do it well, but just do it well, kind of thing. But I think CrossFit, they're always training towards like the games, so they're training for like that sport. And CrossFit is a sport, man. Like, and they do some amazing things, like some awesome things that like I'm like, man, I wish I could do that. But I'm also like, I'm just not at that point where I have to do that in everyday life, kind of thing. So BFT kind of breaks it down into, sweet, like, if you want to be a CrossFitter, you can still benefit by doing BFT, but you need to go do more. Kind of thing for your sport, more sport specific things. Where the F45, it was like, you will never get better at CrossFit by doing F45, because it's always just going to be the same thing. Like your fitness, like you might be able to jump on an assault bike and be like the best at it for that like 20 seconds, but that's going to be pretty much about it. There's no real strength involved, no real fitness involved, kind of thing. No real like long distance fitness. It was always high intensity interval training, which actually isn't good for anyone to be doing like every single day, every single hour, kind of thing. No, I'm not good on anyone's joints, but you guys know this kind of stuff. Like,
I think my friends who have jumped ship towards the BFT, what they love about it is being able to lift heavy and still have people there to assist them. You know, rather than going onto the gym floor alone. Because I think after group fitness, for example, let's say body pump at Les Mills class, which is lighter weight and higher repetitions, they're not getting that maximal strength output, but they're also too intimidated to go into the gym and figure it out themselves because they've never done it before. What I hear is that BFT helps bridge that gap.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of nice as well. Like, it really allows anyone to just walk on off the street and be able to train. And it be safe, and it be like movement, and it be like, depending on like the people that are running it, like very, very welcoming. And so, I think that's the biggest thing for us at our studio is like, we'd like to create a safe environment where anyone can just walk in and be like, okay, cool. Like, this is my place. This is my space to be in.
Michael, my next question is, bro, like, you mentioned it in your upbringing that, you'd have a 3-bedroom house, there's 7 to 8 people living in it. So you have grown up with community. You have grown up with that intention of all for one and one for all, of sharing. How do you teach that type of heart to people that you hire? You know what I mean? Because that type of feeling is unique to you, and I'm the same. I grew up that way too. Didn't have quite 8 people in the house, but there was 4 of us in a 1-bedroom apartment when we first came to New Zealand, and it was always mum and dad working hard to put food on the table. We didn't have everything that we wanted, but we had everything that we needed. So I know what it's like to put my family first, to put the tribe first. How do you teach that to other people?
It's a hard one, eh? Like,
it's intangible way, bro.
Yeah, because like, even the other day, a few weeks back, one of the coaches said to me like, "Oh, you're gonna share your food?" Like, I was like, "Yeah," and he's like, "Nah, that's just weird. Like, because I would never, like, if I had 3 donuts, I would have 3 donuts. Like, that's my donuts, kind of thing." And I was like, "Nah, that doesn't make sense to me. If I had 3 donuts and there's like 10 of us, like, I'm figuring out a way to split this evenly between 10 people. Or even I will split this up into 3 for each donut and I'll just go hungry. Because I like
my man.
Yeah, like that's just me. Like, I would always just do that kind of stuff. And like, I think even going to Dilworth, like, we had that kind of stuff like as well, because like we'd all have like $5 and all the first 15 would have like 1 day off a week, like, where we weren't training. And so you'd have to apply for leave to go to Newmarket kind of stuff, just to leave the school grounds. And so we'd all apply on the same day, and we'd walk down to Newmarket, and everyone would grab, like, we'd all just split. some of us to the warehouse, some of us to the like food court and stuff like that, put our money together, and then we'd meet up on the like at 277 when it was called that, top floor, like where they had this big table, and we just put all our food in together, and we just sit there all just munching back, like some had butter chicken, some had just fries, like heaps of fries from McDonald's, and then some just had lollies and chips and stuff like that, and we're just munching back, having the best time of our lives. But like I said, that's the best time of our lives because we could share.
Yeah.
Like, I can't remember the actual quote of it, but it's like, true happiness is only felt when it's shared.
What's that movie?
Yeah.
Into the Wild.
Into the Wild.
Yeah. True happiness is best when shared or something like that.
Yeah, it's only real when shared, something like that.
Yeah, it's only real when shared.
Yeah.
And I was like, I sat there and I think I watched it off a movie as well, and I was like, oh Lord, yeah, that's so true. And like, I think people miss that because I'm like, man, and again, like every Sunday at home, it's just a big feast, and you invite anyone. Like I could sit there and tell my mum, like, oh mum, like my mate James going through it tough, like he wants to come, can I bring him to lunch? Or after rugby at high school, I'd be like, oh bro, like anyone want to come for a feed at home? Like, and I'd walk up at home and mum would be like, bro, what are you doing, bringing so many people? I wasn't ready for this. But it was always like, here's all my food. Like, I don't care, we'll figure out tomorrow when it comes, bro, but like as long as everyone's happy right now. And so like, it's like you said, like it's a hard question I ask, but answer with the how do you teach it? But I think you can only teach it by doing it more often.
Leading by example.
Yeah, and like the people that haven't done that before, like my staff member, just be like, "Sick, bro, just have some of my food. I don't care."
The white people.
Like, I don't know what to say.
That's a conversation I've been having a lot lately. The Eastern philosophy versus the Western philosophy, right? The Eastern philosophy is quite heavy on community, right? And it's all for one for all. We're all working
When
together.
I eat, you eat, bro.
Yeah. With the Western philosophy, this is a general, a general observation. Is they really celebrate and encourage the individual.
Yeah.
Find your person. Find your own person. Find your way into this world. But I think there's pros and cons to both.
Yeah.
Because with community comes also expectations.
Yeah.
It's hard to break out of the mold, hard to break the tradition. Like, how do you really know what you really want if you have to be something for the family, for example?
Yeah.
You know, you always hear of those stories of kids studying law or accounting, not because they wanted to, but because their parents made them.
Or to become a doctor.
Yeah. And then you hear, on the other side, the selfishness of some people, right? As little as, I'm hungry, you've got food and you didn't share with me, you know?
Yeah.
Like, or stepping over people's toes to get to where they want, you know? That kind of hierarchical stuff.
Yeah.
I think, pros and cons to both. Have you ever been challenged in being able to find your own individual person? Was that ever a challenge for you? Do you struggle to put yourself first sometimes?
I think that's a massive one, man. Like, especially like you say, when you're so big in a community, there's like that expectation, like you're always going to be there for the community and stuff like that, and people don't understand that, like, bro, it's tough to be there all the time, man. And so like, and if you're not there, they go, oh, Ben's slacking. Or in my head, they're going, Ben's slacking, or Ben's like, Ben's got heaps of time off now because the gym's doing well. And it's like, nah, man, like, I'm still in the background working, bro.
Ben's got some money now.
Oh, so he can go on holiday. And I'm like, nah, man, like, bro, we're flat ass, like, on our ass, bro. But like, I'm just trying to do other things in the background to like pump up this thing, like pump up the gym or like, and stuff like that. Like, and so whenever you do something that's for yourself, people go, oh, but what about us? And I'm like, oh, if I could, I would bring everyone with me, bro. Like 100%. Like I say, when I eat, everyone should eat. And if I could say, bro, like, come with me to like even just to like Lululemon and like go get some gears, bro. Like all good, but like you take on this Lululemon ambassadorship that I've got, and people go, oh, must be nice. And I hate that saying, bro. Like, get that saying out of New Zealand, bro. Like, because it's like, bro, like, everyone's done something to get where they're at. And if they're busting their ass off, and then they hear like, oh, it must be nice. It's like,
As if you've just been given something
Yeah.
when you've not had to actually work for it.
yeah.
Or they can't do it themselves.
Or they can, but they're just being lazy, bro.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh man. So like everything I do, and I'm like, you're always just trying to be a little bit wary of like that perception when I know you shouldn't be. Because you shouldn't have to be. But then as soon as someone says must be nice, I go, it is kind of nice.
That's a classic example of traditional versus trying to build your own individual.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it is nice to get some free gears. Like, it is nice. But like, also, it's not just that, bro. Like, I'm doing this so that it pumps up our community. And like, if I could, bro, like, go and take my, like, I think my first question when Lululemon asked me to be an ambassador, I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about this.
If not, we'll cut it out.
Yeah. But like, my first question to Sarah was like, okay, sweet. I know you're giving me a certain amount of money that I'm allowed to use to buy Lululemon gear and stuff like that, so that I can wear in my community, and that's awesome.
Yeah.
I don't need that much gear. Can I have like $500 or something like that? Or like, I'll come in and pick up the stuff that I want, and then can I give the rest to my staff? And it was like, no. And I was like, well, then what can I do for my what can I do for my people? Because it's not just me that created this community. Like I say all the time. Like, and so I just felt bad, and I was like, oh well, like what am I going to do then? How can I get it so that as many people can benefit from this one thing for me? But like you said, like sometimes, bro, you just got to put yourself first and be like, sweet, actually, bro, it is nice.
Okay, you know what? I will buy 3 pairs of shorts, thank you.
Yeah. And I'll wear all 3.
Here in New Zealand, bro, I'm sure you've felt it. We've got this huge tall poppy syndrome. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
Israel
especially,
said it best, bro.
Yeah, and especially as a business owner like yourself, it's sometimes hard for us to own our space because there's that crab mentality of people trying to pull us down. How do you manage those feelings, those when people do talk in that way?
It's a hard one because, like, especially when they're part of your community, you feel so not indebted to them, but like you feel like, oh man, like I'm doing what I can do for our community. And then every time I do something that's not part of the norm or like
what they expect,
they're like, oh, come back. And you're like, bro, but if I do this, then it'll push us all out, kind of thing. And I used to take a lot of things personally. I think business ownership has taught me, like one of the biggest things it's taught me is like, not everyone is out to get you. Like sometimes people have to cancel their memberships because they have to cancel their memberships. It's not because they don't like you as a person, Ben. And I was always like, oh, okay. Like I was always really nice, but like I'd come home and I'd be like, oh man, we lost one more member today. And I was like, man, like, and again, like comes back to like, I owe my father-in-law so much, like, or I owe this person so much. And he sat there and he goes, mate, like, who cares? Like for every one that you lose, you might gain 2. Like, who cares? Like, they just didn't, like, they might have just, I can't afford it. And they might actually not just be able to afford it, man. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, but what can I do to like, and I was just like, man, sometimes I've just got to not take everything so personally and just be like, sweet, cool. How do we move forward? And I'm really in that mentality at the moment of, okay, cool. Like, that's cool. It's affected me. I've taken 5 minutes for it. And now I can just move on. And like, it's affected me for 5 minutes out of 24 hours. Let's move on. How do we come back? Or, okay, cool. Like, yeah, you're angry at me right now, but wait, and like, because I get like free Lulu gear or something like that, but give it, or I'm eating, but give it like a day and bro, we'll all eat. Because of my 5 minutes kind of thing. And because of this 5 minutes of fame, like, we'll all benefit from this at some point. but don't be angry at me because I'm not sharing right now.
Yeah,
If that
true.
makes sense.
Yeah.
It does make sense.
And that's why I don't like that must be nice saying. Where you imagine if everyone said that to like Usain Bolt or something like that, bro. Like, oh, it must be nice to be able to run that fast.
Yeah.
He's gonna turn around and be like, yeah, bro, it is actually. Yeah, it's made me fucking millions, man. And sometimes you got to take that aspect and be like, yeah, cool, I want to do that.
When you know your intentions behind it, you know that long term this is going to be able to benefit your community even more. Like you said, right now in the early days, not so much, and it's easy to look like, oh, no, it must be nice for band. But like you said, you know long term you're doing this, that I'm going to be able to benefit and share this with my community even more than I am now.
Yeah.
So, and they'll see that.
And I think that's like a massive part of it, Like, and I think it's so true. Like, it's where your intentions lie.
Yeah.
Will help you get through.
Yeah.
And I always know in the back of my mind, like, it's where it sometimes should be like, hey, Ben, this is for you. But for me, it's always, this is for all of us.
Yeah.
What other challenges are there with owning a business that most people don't know about, bro, that are in the background? Because I'm sure with a lot of people who don't have that type of knowledge, when they look from the outskirts, they're like, oh yeah, must be nice going on holiday, he must be making heaps of money, business owner nowadays, but what do people what don't they get?
I talk about this with my father-in-law quite a lot, because we're working together, and he said, like, I think the biggest thing that people don't understand about having your own business is they think it creates freedom, whereas it actually creates so many limitations. Where I want to go on holiday, but who's going to be working? What if someone calls in sick? What if all this kind of stuff? Like, we got to Samoa not too long ago with my wife for I think we were only there for like 7 days, because she was like, I want to go for 10, and I was like, we can't do 10.
Yeah.
Sorry. And she was like, why not? And I was like, there's 3 days that the business is going to be by itself. And then we land, and as soon as we landed, someone called in sick, but nobody could cover their shift. And I was like, what can I do? I'm in Samoa right now. I literally just landed. I'm in customs, trying to call all these people, be like, hey bro, can you run a class? Hey man, can you help just with pack up? Can you do this? Can you do that? I'm just got on holiday, and I'm already stressed because I'm pulled back, and those are those limitations that nobody really understands. They think, oh sweet, when you're making money and you're running a business, and even if you're not making money, people have that perception of like, you run a business, you must be rich. And so I think that's one of the hardest parts, is like, again, just people's perceptions, and breaking it and just being like, cool, you don't understand. And just moving on with it, I
remember I always thought that when the first physio clinic I worked at, I had an awesome boss, and he'd said, he goes, oh, do you see yourself owning your own clinic one day? And I was like, to be honest, no. Like, I see what you have to do, and I don't think I ever would. I said, on your days off, like, if something goes wrong, we still call you. Yeah. So even though it's your day off, but you're still always on call. Or I said, when you're on holiday, something goes wrong, we're calling you. Like I said, you never really get a day off, even though for others might say, oh, he's only in the clinic working 3 days a week. Oh, that must be pretty good. But he's then doing work from home or doing other admin or other business stuff. He's always on, and again, something goes wrong, we're calling you.
Marketing,
so that's when I was like, fuck that. But like you said, most people just don't get that if they're not involved in that.
On that, I have a constant alarm every morning at 4:15, even if I'm not on a shift. Like, my alarm goes off, and I'm up for like half an hour, just in case someone calls in sick. Just in case. Because I know that if someone calls, I'm spending about 20 minutes trying to wake up. And then I'll get to class. Whereas if I'm awake at 4:15, I've still got time, and I'm kind of awake. Then someone calls and goes, I could go, sweet as, all good. Hang up, get my clothes ready, and then I'm off, kind of thing. But I said that on the gym floor one day. I was like, I am awake most of the time almost every day at 4:15. And they're like, oh, is it just body clock? And I was like, no, I have a constant alarm that's 4:15, Just in case.
Just in
Just in case one of you
and like so fortunate for me because I've never had to do it.
Yeah.
But like I'm just always like, yeah, man. Like, what if someone in the night like ends up throwing up all night and they're like, oh, nah, I'll be all good by the morning. But they're not. And like, so I'll be there and I'm awake and blah blah blah. Like the hardest part is if I'm working as well. But I'm just like, oh, so if I'm working by myself, I know I can handle like a class by myself. But
What surprised you the most about owning a business? What's something that you did not expect during this journey?
I think most of it's like the time management kind of stuff. Like, I just didn't I was always like, even when we first opened, I was always like, oh, yo, I've still got time to myself. But like, it's kind of never really your own time. You're always indebted to work because you're like, oh, but I've got time to myself, but I could be doing this, I could be doing that, I could be doing this, I could be doing that. And so that like battery ends up like, I think I'm running on a state of tiredness. And it's not because like, I think I read something the other day and it was like, bro, it's because you're always feeling guilty when you're having time to yourself. That you're so like, even, and my social battery is so dead because I spend all of my social battery at work. Being like people, community. And then I get home and I'm like, oh, I've got half an hour, maybe I'll watch my favorite TV show. And so you lie down and then you go, oh, you've got half an hour. You could be doing marketing, you could be doing admin, you could be doing like sales calls.
you could be calling.
You could be doing anything of this, but you're sitting here. Like, what's that? That might be 2 sales that you don't get because you're sitting here for half an hour.
So you're not even enjoying the TV show because you're in your head being like,
whereas I should just get up and just do the work, and then I'll spend half an hour just doing nothing. And I was like, but then even then it was like, and like I always heard stories about like people that run businesses and they're like, oh bro, like I wake up at like 2 a.m. and like I have a business idea or like a idea for my business, and I was like, I'm never gonna have that, bro. I love my sleep. And I'm good at it. So like, I'll be sleepy, and then like, and now I'm like, I think one of the best ideas that one of the business people that work out at the gym says was like, bro, just have a notepad beside you, and if you wake up and you have this idea, you jot it down, you put it aside, and you go back to sleep again, and it's, at least it's down, and you'll remember it when you wake up. Whereas if you don't do that, you'll sit up and you'll go, oh, but this. What about power? What about this? How can I save on this? How can I, And so I think that, like, the state of tiredness that I'm in it, like, it's all good. Like, because I love what I'm doing. So I'm willing to sacrifice that. But it is tough.
Sounds like it's preparing you well for fatherhood one day.
That's what my wife says
Do you
all the
have
time.
kids yet?
Nah,
you don't have kids yet. Gotcha.
Got BFT as my kid.
Doesn't mean it's training you well.
And all the members at the BFT. My wife says that a lot. She's like, oh, I think 90% of the like parenting is going to be done by you, because like, you're going to be all good to like have no sleep and just be sitting there being like...
Bring baby to the gym, the bouncer, teaching the class.
Well, in class sometimes I'm like, oh, I'd rather just hang out with the kids.
Me and Sinead were having a conversation this morning at breakfast, bro, about these 2 schools of thoughts when it comes to like goal setting. Some people set like this external 5-year goal and then reverse engineer their way to it, right? And then there are other people like myself where I just know what my values and what I'm good at and what I like doing, and then I just try and amplify it, and whatever comes. Which one are you? Do you set goals externally and then you're like, cool, how do I reverse engineer my way to that goal? Or do you just see what you've got right now and see how you can do it better, and then whatever
comes.
Whatever outcome happens.
I think we're very similar. It's crazy. Because I'm very much like that, man. I'm like, oh man, like I've got this, like I've got these ingredients for dinner kind of thing, and like, what can I make of it? That'll make it way better than just like chicken on rice, that kind of thing. Like it's same with my goal setting, then. It's just like, oh, okay, cool. Like, I can do this, but how can I make it even like better?
Yeah. So it's working from what you've got now.
Yeah.
Rather than
But like even like in saying that, I think the people that are like, oh sweet, like engineering backwards kind of thing, they're the list type of people. I'm very much not a list person. Like, don't give me a list, man. Like, I even said to like my wife used to leave lists like for me to come home and like, because when I was waterproofing, bro, like some days like you'd only get probably like half the day work, or some days you go to work and then it's like 8 o'clock and then you're home 8 a.m. in the morning, and like you just got nothing to do because it's raining or something like that. And so if she knew it was raining, she'd leave me a list on like the table. I come home and I look at the list, I scratch it and I chuck it in the bin, and she goes, "Did you do anything?" I go, "No, don't leave me a list. Like, just I'll get it done. Like if it's there." Same thing with my goals, bro. Don't give me a list of what I need to do to achieve something. I'll just like one day I'll get there. You're not like that.
I'm a bit of both. But I think more so lately I've been more like, oh, I'll just kind of go with the flow. Like as long as I'm enjoying what I'm doing and I'm getting fulfillment from it, I just kind of go with it and see what opportunities arise. And when that opportunity does, I'll be like, oh yeah, do I want to do that? And go with that, go down that path, see where that leads me. I'm less so of a, like, in 5 years I see myself here and therefore I'm going to work and do XXX to get to that spot. Like I just kind of...
I think there's pros and cons to both ways, right? Like there's no right or wrong.
It's so good to have like KPIs and things like that. Like they're so good, but it just doesn't
resonate with me. Yeah. I've got a friend who's just made it into pretty much the special forces, the elite policemen of our country, and reverse engineered his way there from 7 years ago. But he was tunnel vision over the next 7 years. It was that or nothing at all. You know? So he forced his way into that. So I asked myself, if I think that way more, if I was to set like a 5-year goal, would I be more tunnel vision? But I also think I would be more rigid, which is against who I am. I'm quite a dynamic guy. I'm quite fluid. I'm willing to take the opportunities as they come. But I ask myself, is it the slow way to go about things?
But then it's a scenic route.
And again, like,
what is life about for you too? Right?
Would it stop you from like going and doing something that's even better, but you just never saw it because you like didn't take that opportunity? And like one day, like you might be, I'm so tunnel vision on this, that like a different division that you'd be bloody awesome at opened up. And you'd be perfect role for it, but like you're like, nah, this is my one focus. I think for me, I don't find like motivation behind that.
So if I was to say, where do you see Benjamin Channing in 5 years' time? How would you answer that?
I don't know.
I'll answer that. Broadway. Musicals, Broadway, New Zealand, Marlon and Ben on stage together, sold out shows in Auckland.
That did us. We can amplify that feeling. Don't know. I would answer it. I hope that I am happy. I just hope that I'm happy and living up to my values, whatever that might look like.
I think when I started at Bodytech, one of the best questions that they ever asked in an interview, like I say I hate interviews, and I still do. Even interviewing someone else, I'm like, I feel so professional. Was their thing, they go, what are your 3 biggest values in your life right now? And like I literally looked at them and I was like, I don't know. I literally don't know. And she was like, do you understand what values are? And I was like, 100% I understand. Like, and I knew what their values were because I'd looked them up. Like, I was like, oh, values, okay. And then so she was like, okay, cool. Like, we'll give you till the next interview to like have a think about it and like come up with some. And I had to go home and be like, who has been like what does he want from life and what do I value like? And I think and like I still use that question now in my interviews and stuff like that, like, but like I'll just break it down to one kind of thing, and I'm like, what's your biggest value? Like what's the most important thing to you in life right now? And like for me, like my biggest one is respect, and it will always be respect, I think. And if I'm always living to that, like everything will come with it.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Like, because with respect comes honesty, with respect comes trust, with respect comes like that rapport building and what I'm doing in life and things like that. So it'll always come down to respect, but like if I can amplify that as well, I'm happy in 5 years as well. Like, yeah.
There'll be some people listening right now being like, fuck, what do I value? You would be in that position right now thinking about, what is it that makes them tick? What is it that I value? How did you find what you valued? How would you give people advice to find their values?
It's a hard one because with Samoan culture, so once Dad passed at 9, Mum brought Grandpa over and Grandma, and so I was really brought up in a Samoan household kind of thing. And one of the biggest things in terms of like Fa'a Samoa, which is like Samoan, how Samoans like live their life, is respect, is fa'aloa. And it's just like, bro, like if you don't have respect for your elders, don't have respect for like you as a person. So for me, it didn't come easy because it was always like, is that number one though? Like, because in all honesty, if I'm never honest, like it just always would come back to that one thing. Yeah. Like, is it honesty? Is it integrity? Is it like, and you can use all these big words for like that one thing. But like for me, it was always just, it would always tunnel back kind of thing to that word respect.
Yeah.
And so I'm not saying it came easy, it just, I kind of like, even I Googled and I was just like, bro, like, what does this mean? What does that mean? What does this mean? Like integrity, trust, and broke it all down. And I was always like, yeah, like I see it, it always just came back to that one word for me. And I have a staff member whose biggest one is honesty. And he's like, I can never build honesty without trust and all that kind of stuff. And like, well, you can't build trust without honesty and all that kind of stuff. So it always comes back to that for him. And so, it's always like, if you didn't have that in your life and it's missing from your life, would your life still be the same?
That's a great question to ask yourself.
And if I didn't have respect in my life or give respect in my life, I wouldn't be where I am today.
I think another way of finding out your values is really reflecting on what you admire about your parents, because they hand them down to you usually. But anyway, performing arts, back to you. Off air we were talking about the performing arts industry, bro. How much of your performing arts background influences the PT, the instructor, or even the businessman you are today?
Like a lot, I think. Those days that I'm not feeling like I want to be at the gym, I'm kind of like, nah, bro. You need to be on.
Turn it on.
Yep. And it's just like, sweet, I can do that. Shoulders back, chest up kind of thing. Like
change your physicality. 100%.
Smile a little bit, and then I fall into that character. And I'm like, sweet, now I'm loving being here.
You forget the character that you were before.
And so for me, it's massive. And like I said off air, like that opportunity to actually just listen, like, and being so invested into someone's story, like, because I think, like, I'm sure you'd agree, like, what's it called? Like, being a therapist is being part of being a PT or being 100%. Part of like group fitness training and things 100%. Like that. You've just got to listen sometimes and react to how they're feeling, and that's how you're going to coach them.
That's right.
And so I think that really, really helped me in terms of the fact that I can go to someone and like actually not fully understand. I'm not going to say like, oh, bro, I'm so good at this. I'm so good at understanding a person. Sometimes I get it wrong. And like, you know what? I'll admit that I'm not the best trainer ever. That's all good. I'm happy with that. But like every single day, I'm becoming a better trainer because of that one interaction, second interaction, and how I can adapt from that is a monster thing for me. But I think that performing arts aspect has like, it's helped me understand my own body as a dancer, like being able to like where you're isolating and stuff like that really helped with my own training and form. I can feel that kind of stuff, so that when I'm going into explaining it, I'm like, okay, cool, here. And then also like when I'm standing at the front of the class explaining class, I'm not really that nervous.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just like, hey, we're just here to have fun.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm human too, so I might get some things wrong, and that's okay. And it was the same as when I was performing as well. There was like, I'm human, bro, and if people don't understand that, then and they're looking at me as like, oh, I'm perfection, I'm never gonna get better because I'm not gonna actually understand myself. So
yeah. I always come back to drama school. For me, was really a communications degree, learning how to communicate to other people, to read between the lines, the subtext. Someone says one thing, but what are they really saying? Can you feel that, and can you respond to that? I think that's a forgotten thing with group fitness as well, the performance aspect of it. It's hard to teach. It's really, really hard to teach.
The biggest thing is like communication, man. I think that's the biggest part of our jobs.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. That's why personal comes before personal training.
Yeah.
Yeah, your ability to connect with these people.
Yeah.
And it's not as easy as just asking good questions.
Yeah.
Or
listening to someone else and asking the same questions that they ask.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, bro, that like journey doesn't, it's not going to be the same path, man. Like if I ask you, like, how's the body feeling, and then someone else asks you the same thing, if they respond in the same way, it's not going to always be the same conversation.
Yeah.
Unless there's actual thought and process behind it.
And like you said, really listening to when you do have a client, you're like, oh, how are you going today? How's the week been? And they're like, oh, yeah, good, thanks. You're like, cool, let's get going. But really listening for that, like, yeah, good. I mean, like, are we all good? Or like, and like you said, maybe digging a bit deeper, and you might find they're like, oh, actually, work's been hectic this week, or this is going on at home. And then, like you said, from there, you will probably slightly change what you were maybe initially planning on doing. You might be like, okay, you're probably mentally not in the great state to be testing your 1RM today on your squat. Let's actually, pull it back and do something else. But like you said, I think there's a lot of PTs and instructors out there that don't really listen for that. It's just like, hey, how are you? Cool, let's get going into our warm-up set. Blah, blah, blah.
And it's just
on script,
and on the program, because it's like, we're here to do these exercises, and if we waste time chatting, that's cutting into your 45-minute session with me, and I don't want to run late, so let's get going. Versus chatting with them and actually giving what would help them in that situation.
I think it comes back to something that I actually watched on your Instagram, was being that PT of value versus PT of convenience.
Yeah.
And I was like, when I listened to that, I was like, oh my Lord, man. Like there was a time that I was literally just a PT of convenience. Like I was just at the gym and I kind of knew what I was talking about. But like if I left, nobody's following me.
Yeah.
Like at that time.
Yeah.
But that's because I was so down.
Yeah.
But like now it's like if I would hope, if I left where I'm at today, people would follow because I am their PT of like value, and I offer something to people's lives that they can take away from and be like, oh man, like I'm so happy that I found BFT Takapuna. Yeah.
I'm sure people do follow you, bro. Your event, Walk a Mile with Me, the amount of people you had fucking doing that workout.
Oh, that was
God. I was like, man, people love Ben.
I know, say whatever, right? And then just do it.
Nah, yeah, you're definitely a man, not just a PT of value, bro. You're a man of value.
Thank you.
And it shows with the people that come to run for Auckland when you've started coming there now too.
Run for
the
Auckland,
numbers that you draw. Bro, we want to wrap up. Don't want to take up too much of your time. If you had to give advice to Benjamin, who's just about to go into this journey of entrepreneurship, of being a business owner, if he was sitting in front of you right now looking for advice, what would you tell him?
That Ben probably wouldn't listen, but oh man, it's a hard one, eh? It would literally just be like, look after yourself, man. At some points, you just got to take some time to take care of yourself so that you can help fill other people's cups. But again, you can't pour from an empty cup, man.
Yeah.
And some points, I feel myself falling back into that place where I'm just like, I'm holding that glass above other people's cups, but there's nothing coming out, and I'm trying. I'm like, bro. So it's that taking that time to be like, hey, like, it's okay not to feel like that.
Yeah.
But it's what you do about it, and about how you react to it, rather than just being like, it is what it is. Yeah. And I think I've kind of found a happy medium as to where I'm at right now. Hopefully. So it's running along with that.
Yeah.
But it's taken a while to get there, and it always will.
Yeah. But bro, also, how do you think the New Zealand health and fitness industry could be improved?
Ooh.
Yeah, usually that was my last question, the one before, and I was like, no, because I admire your heart, I admire your work ethic, I love where you come from, because so much of that resonates with me.
Yeah.
And you obviously produce results, like you're a positive impact in the health and fitness industry. So yeah, I'm curious, how do you think it could be improved?
I think it still comes back just down to egos, like people doing it for selfish reasons, but then also like, so it's a hard one, because it's like, it's not ever going to make the most amount of money unless you become like Joseph Rakish kind of thing. But yeah, and then everyone's like, I'm just going to go straight into that online personal training kind of stuff, where they haven't put in the groundwork and built that those communication skills, built their knowledge around exercise and what's actually going to benefit everyone. And it's just creating a lot of like, I'm here to smash you, demolish you for the session, so that you walk out of here being like, that was the best training session I've ever felt in my life, because I'm tired right now. But is it there's no forward planning as to, okay, cool, where are we going to see, where are you going to be in a year? Are you still going to be training with me because I smash you every single day? Or are you going to still be training with me because I've helped you achieve a goal of running a marathon, losing 20 kgs, feeling the best that you felt, giving you more energy, getting rid of that brain fog? I think that there's like, so probably that, the foresight as to where people are going and where their journeys are, rather than just thinking about the right now.
I see what you mean. It's a lot of it is very short-sighted, because sometimes the only measures of success a lot of instructors and PTs have is exhaustion.
How many calories did I burn? Did I get a gold medal in my workout? Like that kind of stuff.
Rather than, how does this workout influence their life at home? Their relationships with their partner? How does this workout influence the way they show up at work?
Or even that like 5-year goal, 10-year goal that you're looking for. Even if you're like Mona and I, where we're fluid, it's kind of like, how does it affect that long-term goal? And will it be a detriment to that 5-year goal, or is it going to be like a positive outcome and just like amplify that 5-year goal and make it even better? But even if you are like such a rigid person, not such a rigid person, such a rigid like timeline as to like, I need to get to that 5-year goal and this is my list of how I'm going to do it. Having that personal trainer is probably part of the list, but within the health and fitness industry, like it can always be a detriment, that workout, because like, what if I injure you right now? Then I stuff up your 5-year goal, and that's on me, not on you, because you tried to lift 100 kgs on a squat or deadlift, but your back hurts right now because I wasn't there to look after you properly. So I think it's that foresight.
More focus on sustainability. Like if you want someone training for life, then that should be the focus of planning, of doing some form of activity that is sustainable long term. Smashing someone every session is not going to be sustainable long term as they get older. So definitely that focus should just be more on movement that feels good, movement that's in alignment with their goals, whatever that might be at the time. Like I said, it might be training for a particular running event or a particular powerlifting event, whatever it might be. But I think, still that long term focus as well, for sure.
Well, bro, I'm sure there's going to be many projects for you coming up in the future. For people who want to stay updated and want to support you and find you and maybe even want to work with you, where can they Where can they get at you? How can they find you?
So obviously I'm on Instagram just like everyone else's. Nice and easy. BChanningNZ. And then also BFT Takapuna. I'm there every day. Come through for a workout. You too as well.
Yeah, I do want to come. I want to come.
Come through, catch, feel the vibe. And yeah, run for Auckland on Sundays. I'm there as much as I can be. I won't be there this Sunday again, but but yeah, like I love that. Like just that community vibe, and feeling a part of someone else's community is so awesome to see. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, my brother.
No, thank you for having me, team.
Thank you.